Winfield Sr.'s work.
Yes, particularly his book, Mentoring Matters, Fostering Reflective Practices in Education. He touches on this puzzle directly.
And the picture it paints is pretty stark. It mentions data, figures showing millions spent year after year.
Like those Gewurtz figures from back in 2010.
Yeah, those ones. Millions spent, but proficiency scores, they barely seem to move. Educational planners are apparently quite baffled.
It feels like you should be seeing some result, doesn't it? And what's really interesting, I think, is that the source doesn't just throw out established methods.
Oh, like what?
Well, it mentions people like Lucy Calkins or frameworks like Charlotte Danielson's for teaching. It doesn't say these are wrong.
Okay, hold on. So the argument isn't that the theories or the tools are faulty.
Not fundamentally, no. According to this view, the real issue, the core problem, isn't the methods themselves, but the actual environment they're being used in.
The environment.
Yeah. Especially in these really challenging schools, there's something about the setting that just, well, it hinders learning, particularly for what the source calls underserved students.
And because of that, teachers can't effectively do what the source terms teaching through to proficiency.
Precisely. And let's clarify that term.
Good idea.
Teaching through to proficiency, as the source describes it, it's about a teacher being able to use all the data, all the resources they need.
Without impediment.
Exactly. Without anything getting in the way, to help students actually reach proficiency on those big end-of-year tests, those summative assessments.
The source is flat out saying
Yeah.
that's just not happening consistently in these schools.
Right. And it's crucial to note this isn't framed as teachers, not trying hard enough.
No, it acknowledges many work incredibly hard.
Tremendous effort. But the learning environment itself it's beset by these significant environmental issues, as the source puts it.
Environmental issues. Okay, that sounds kind of broad. What does the source seem to mean by that? Is it about the building, resources?
It seems to encompass more than just the physical space, though that could be part of it. Think about the overall conditions surrounding the teaching and learning.
So maybe things like school safety, lack of stable leadership, maybe inconsistent resources day to day.
Could be all of those, yeah. Or even broader things like societal factors impacting the students before they even walk in the door, things affecting attendance, well-being, stuff that spills into the classroom and disrupts things.
I see. So these conditions create an atmosphere where no matter how good the lesson plan is, the learning just can't properly take root.
That's the core idea here. The teaching effort, however strong, gets fundamentally blocked by this environment. It doesn't translate into proficiency gains across the board.
So teachers are essentially set up to struggle, not because their methods are bad, but because the context is working against them.
That seems to be the argument. The environment isn't supporting the teaching process, making it incredibly difficult, maybe almost impossible, to get all students to that proficiency benchmark consistently.
Well, okay, if the environment is the real barrier, what does the source say we should do about it? You can't just ignore it.
Right. Definitely not. The source argues for a really comprehensive plan, one that directly confronts these environmental problems head on. It even calls it a fight.
A fight. That sounds intense. Does it offer a timeline?
It does, actually. It suggests that turning around even the most challenged schools might be possible, maybe in about 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years. That's a significant commitment.
It is. And the source adds a pretty stark warning that first year. It would likely be, and I quote, an all-out battle.
An all-out battle. Why so difficult? What's the predicted resistance?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting and maybe a little controversial. The writer suggests this battle involves drawing new lines, setting new boundaries, and that the strongest pushback might actually come from what it calls well-entrenched power structures.
Power structures. That takes it beyond just the school building, doesn't it? What kind of structures are we talking about? Bureaucracy, politics.
It implies systems, yeah. It doesn't name names, but you can imagine established hierarchies, maybe funding mechanisms, local political interest groups that, well, they might resist fundamental change because it disrupts the status quo.
So changing the environment means potentially shifting control, shaking up how things are usually done.
And the source argues those existing structures might actively fight against that kind of systemic shift.
Right. So the real work isn't just about tweaking lessons or training teachers better. It's about tackling these bigger systemic environmental issues.
And potentially overcoming significant resistance from within the broader system itself. That's the implication.
Okay, so let's sum this up. The source's main point is The environment is the fundamental blocker. You have to fix the whole context.
Yes. Without addressing the problem, holistically tackling those environmental and systemic barriers, deep learning just won't happen consistently.
And teachers, no matter how dedicated, won't be in the right position, mentally or physically, to actually teach through to proficiency.
That's the conclusion presented.
It's a really challenging perspective. So here's something for you, the listener, to think about. If this source is right, if fixing the entire environment is essential for learning, and if powerful structures might resist that very fix, what does that tell us about where the focus truly needs to shift for real change to happen in these schools?